sensational in dispatching Villa. The third win for the Eagles over Villa this season. John Mateta was unplayable as well. It was an absolutely brilliant game for the neutral. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a great advert for Premier League football. Didn't you, Dan? Wasn't it brilliant?
The last thing I wanted to do was talk to you about this.
Well,
I could be working with anyone. I'd rather have actually worked with a Crystal Palace fan today than work with you.
That's not very nice because, listen, you have been there and front centre, and rightly so, because you're good at what you do. You talk about what you see. So when it comes to dissecting my team, you've been right there talking about all the failings, all the shortcomings, etc., etc. And this was, you wanted to be part of the big games that really meant something. So all the eyes are on these games. So there's no way we could come to this show, Dan, and not talk about it.
Yep, getting bullied by someone whose team's 14th in the league,
and we'll be in the Champions League next year, and you will not. How about that?
I can't. That can get clipped up. That can get clipped up. You've got a 1 in 4 chance.
I've already said we're going to win Europa League. I've said that from way before.
I look forward to the compilation reel of when that doesn't happen.
That's fine, and they can make that if it doesn't. But as of now, I still have things to play for, and you don't.
No, we do, because we can still finish in the top 5 and we can still get ourselves Champions League football next season. Although I will say, it's definitely not looking as likely as it was 7 to 10 days ago, that's for sure.
Right, okay, let's get into it, because you also tell me that Emiliano Martinez is the best goalkeeper in the world. And I've told you many times he isn't. Over the last few games, few silly errors. 3 silly errors.
The Man City first goal was a definite error. He's not been as sharp recently.
Since he's put that cap on and the silly haircut.
No,
I think,
he himself would say, and I did something with his former goalkeeping coach last week. Emiliano Martinez would be the first one to say, and I think he has said in an interview, that he's not been up to his previous level. But players suffer dips. Players have seasons where they don't reach their optimum level, and it looks like Emiliano Martinez is having that while still being an exceptional goalkeeper, because even at his kind of lower level, he's still the best goalkeeper I've ever seen play for Villa. So it's one of those things. Players will have dips. He won't be the first goalkeeper to have a dip. He's only really been playing proper first-team football for 5 or so years.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? You forget he was at Arsenal for 10 years.
So he never really played. So
until the FA Cup.
You know, he's had more good times than bad in the last 5 years, hasn't he? And I'm sure he'll bounce back and get back to his super high level.
I love this positivity, Dan. I really do.
I'm not going to sit here and slate Emiliano Martinez.
No, you can't. He's been too good. And I'm winding you up. Also, was the team a bit tired, a bit jaded? What do you put the? Because actually, if we just rewind a little bit to the City game, I watched that game as well. I did a review of that after the game, and I just felt that this Villa side is good enough to go toe to toe with that Villa side, with that City side. Yeah. And I just thought you ended the first half really well after you got back into it. Rashford looked razor sharp. I was like, yeah, this is good. But second half, I don't even really think Man City upped it loads. I just think you just looks flat.
A bit too respectful of them.
Yeah.
I would say.
I don't know why.
I will say there's definitely been better points during the season to go to the Etihad and play Manchester City that they have picked up over the last month or so. There's no doubt in that. But I still think we went there and gave them a little bit too much respect. Could have gone 1-0 up in that game really early from Rashford, hit the post, and then they obviously end up going ahead from a mistake. Villa did well to kind of stay in the game and get themselves back to 1-1. I thought the first half was a good performance, but in the second half, a little bit too respectful, a little bit of a lack of intensity. Maybe one eye on the Cup semi-final on the Saturday. I don't know, but we just ended up conceding a poor goal late on, and that's happened a few times this season. Unfortunately for Villa, they're the fine margins that might end up costing us. And then I don't know whether there's a bit of a hangover from Tuesday gone into Saturday, but we never really got going as a club, as the players, as the manager, as a fan base. I just felt we never really got going on Saturday. Something felt wrong as soon as I got into the ground. Crystal Palace's fans were absolutely magnificent all the way through. Their players were excellent. Tactically, they got it right. We got it wrong. I think Emery got his team selection slightly wrong. Tyrone Mings.
Is this the first bit of criticism? Not first bit, but is this an interesting point about the criticism for Emery? With a few team selections, a few substitutions. You look at PSG taking Rashford off when he was doing absolutely flying. I know you've got this great depth you do talk about, which has won your game, so it is a sort of a flip one. You look at the City game as well, made a few changes then. Did he get the team selection wrong again? Is there a little bit to look at Unai Emery here to say he's got a great track record of producing the goods, but last couple of games has he maybe overcomplicated it or just had picked the wrong players?
I mean, 90% of his tenure, or maybe even 95% of his tenure, he's got things right.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get everything right, are you? And it's only my opinion, and a lot of Villa fans echo this. I thought the team selection, when I saw the team on Saturday before the game, that was another thing that kind of fueled the fire in me.
What was wrong
thinking,
with it? What should it
Tyrone Mings absolutely has to play that game.
Really?
Absolutely has to. He's Villa's best box defender. For me, he's still Villa's best centre-back.
Like and Torres.
Yeah. Tyrone Mings is Villa's best centre-back, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah. He has come back, has raised his level again. Mate, Tyrone Mings is Villa's real leader in that back line.
The injuries, he's had such long injuries, we can kind of forget.
I don't think we've lost a game he started this season.
Wow.
Villa's record with Tyrone Mings in the team this season, they've kept more clean sheets with Tyrone Mings in the team. The majority of their clean sheets have come with Tyrone Mings in the team. Tyrone Mings plays against Newcastle. We win 4-1. He's just more of an aggressor than the rest of the centre-backs. And I feel that when he's there and he's the aggressor, it feeds into the rest of the team. I think we're a bit passive against Man City and Palace, and it's no coincidence that in those two games, the two games that Tyrone Mings doesn't play, I was absolutely certain he would start that game. He was doing club media. He hadn't played the kind of 2 games previous. Oh, no, sorry, he hadn't played the Man City game previous, so it felt like, okay, he's been rested for Wembley, but for whatever reason, he wasn't put in the team, and I genuinely think that game's completely different with Tyrone Mings in that lineup.
Ollie Watkins, since he sort of spoke about being very frustrated, not starting the big games, you then go to Manchester City, he doesn't start, which, listen, Marcus Rashford scored, was very lively as well, played quite well in that game. Do you worry that it's been a bit too unsettling for Ollie Watkins because Marcus Rashford has come in, and this is a player that, we'll talk about him in more depth later on in the show, but may not, however you want to look at it, be at Villa. But as a consequence for bringing him in, it's unsettled your main goal scorer? Or does Ollie Watkins actually need to get used to this? If he wants to kick on and be a top player with a club like Villa that's having aspirations of challenging for top honours and honours, that you got to compete with the top players?
If you want to be at a big club that is doing what you've just said, you have to have competition for places. And unfortunately for Watkins, I think he thrives more when he knows he's going to play. We had a little spell earlier on in the season when John Duran was breathing down his neck, and there was a certain point just before Christmas, before Duran got sent off on Boxing Day, that John Duran was in the team on merit, and he started 3 or 4 games in a row. I think then he got sent off, and Ollie Watkins got back in. In terms of goal contributions, Watkins hasn't been as good as the last 2 seasons, but he's still right up there in Premier League terms. He's still Villa's top Premier League goal scorer. He's got 4 games to break the all-time Premier League goal-scoring record, which, fingers crossed, with 4 games left, he'll be able to do that. There's a lot of noise around him at the moment. There's no doubt that he is unsettled. He's obviously come out and done an interview after the Newcastle game, which I didn't see anything wrong with. Players should be fuming when they're not playing. I think the media is trying to build it up a little bit at the moment. Obviously, Carragher did his podcast, The Stick to Football, last week, and came out with some stuff around Arsenal, which is kind of half the story of what actually happened. There is some truth to what Jamie Carragher was saying, but it wasn't as simple as Villa offered Watkins to Arsenal. Villa were trying to use Watkins as leverage, is my understanding. So they were making out to Saudi Arabia that, well, actually, we can choose to keep John Duran and we can sell our other striker because there's talks with Arsenal.
You think it wasn't their intention?
It's not as clear cut as Jamie Carragher described.
That would have been interesting to see, what.
I think a bid did arrive, didn't it?
Of the right figure.
Wasn't the right fee. But I don't think Villa ever wanted to.
Do you think he could leave in the summer?
Yes, I do think he could leave.
But even if Rashford, because Rashford, there's no guarantee he's going to go.
No, I think they could quite easily not both not be at Villa next season.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't want that. For me, I'd want Ollie Watkins at the football club. I'd want Ollie Watkins as my starting striker for Villa because I believe when he's on his game, very few strikers that Villa could get in that would be better than him. He's been one of the top marksmen in Europe for 2 seasons. That doesn't just go. That doesn't just go.
No,
it's still there. And I do sometimes think there's a lack of respect around Watkins from our own fans, and that can be the case at other clubs as well. I just think Villa wouldn't be where they are today without Ollie Watkins. The problem is that PSR is obviously always a factor. If Villa don't qualify for the Champions League, they're probably going to have to shift someone again. Is my understanding of the situation. So, do you shift someone who's 29 and you can kind of get big-ish money for him, and then you don't have to sacrifice someone younger? It could be that happens. He might be unsettled himself and fancy a change of scenery. I've thought that if Emery had a choice at the moment, I think Emery would think, if I can sign Marcus Rashford for 40 million and sell Watkins for, say, between 50 and 60, Marcus Rashford's 27. I've said this before on talkSPORT. That's the same age I picked Ollie Watkins up at. I made Ollie Watkins one of the best strikers in Europe. I think Rashford's kind of potential / natural ability is higher than Ollie Watkins.
Not up front.
I can take him to a high. I think Emery thinks that Emery would back himself.
He probably would, but I'll tell you now, that would be a mistake, I think, playing him up front. On the left, yes, but playing
just
him
feel I have to reinvent that whole system to get him in on the left, and it's just not worked.
Yeah, okay, well, we shall see. You are listening to talkSPORT 2 Social with William Hill.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.